The 10 minutes in, I was saying to myself, this looks like extra time and this looks like penalties. Because while Japan was willing to pressure higher up the field than what we have seen earlier in the competition, that wasn't going to last for 90 minutes. It's impossible to keep up that pace. And for them, there's a mechanism in the way that they play in that whenever they go on the front foot, their next reaction, natural reaction is, let's get back over here and absorb pressure so that when we can get out in transition again and get out on the front foot again. They're unable to sustain pressure for long periods of time. They're unable to really trust themselves enough to be parked in the attacking half. And Croatia, on the other hand, well, if you think of matchups for Croatia, Japan was not the right one for them in terms of style, because if Japan was going to wait for them, they were inviting Croatia to have this possession. Fine, if you're Croatia, you want possession of the ball because you want Modric involved, because you want Kovacic involved. But then you slow down that possession that plays right into the hands of Japan and their willingness to get out in transition whenever they force a turnover. So for Croatia, you're in between. It's, do we really want to have this possession in the attacking half? Because if we don't do anything with this possession, now we're exposing ourselves from the counterattack for Japan. And then Japan, on the other hand, was like, all right, we're waiting for the transition. If we can pressure higher the field, we will, but we feel comfortable over here. So eventually became a game in which it was played sort of in the middle of the field, hoping for a transition for Japan and hoping for Croatia that maybe they could be a little bit more direct. Neither one of those things happened with any sort of consistency, and so therefore we ended up in extra time and penalty kicks.
So from that, Ale, to your point about going so far and stuff, I felt, and obviously it's not a shocker here, but both teams by, 2 minutes to go before penalties, they were done. Their tanks were out. You could see it. They were so tired. But in the end, Croatia wins and comes out through. How do you think now Croatia is going to prepare for their next game, the quarterfinals? Because surely that has taken a lot out of them. Do you think they have enough time to recuperate and maybe have a different plan in facing in the next match?
You know, what's interesting about Croatia is that as they went into extra time and as they go into penalties, you look at as to whom or who are the players who are going to take these penalties, or who are these players that are going to lead this team in extra time. And you're thinking, okay, well, it has to be Modric. No, he's on the bench. He just came off the field. Kovacic. No, he's on the bench. He just came off the field. Okay, well, then it has to be Perisic. No, he's on the bench. He just came off the field. Yeah. It addresses the point that this team, 4 years down the road from last World Cup, well, obviously they've gotten older. And so while we like to think of Croatia and Modric and Kovacic and Perisic, well, those guys are not quite able to carry the team the way that they did in 2018. So the issue of fitness is a big question for Croatia. And as to how they approach the next match, well, it depends who they're going to play against. But either way, whether it's South Korea and more than likely Brazil, it's going to be high pace. It's going to be high tempo. And you're going to have to defend a lot in terms of what Brazil will present or potentially present if they're able to get past South Korea. It's a different challenge for them. It's not a team that really likes to get in behind. It's not a team that really threatens to get in behind in terms of Croatia, because they don't have the players to do that. Perisic used to be the guy to do the back and forth. Now he does a lot more forth than back because he doesn't quite have the same engine that he once did. So, to answer your question, I think Croatia at this point must be willing to, at the very least, think about some changes. Now, the big names are not going to change, but you need some fresh legs in order to be able to find those spaces in behind, to change the speed of the game, because if you continue to slow the game down, eventually, if it is Brazil that ends up getting past South Korea, Brazil is going to speed it up, and you're going to have to be willing to keep up with that.
Yeah, and two things that may be not looking great for Croatia, although I will not bet against them. I thought they'd be my dud team in 2018, and they went all the way to the final, so don't listen to me. But anyway, Neymar's starting for Brazil, so that's looking even more likely if everything's to go well for him, and he is feeling fit enough to do Neymar things for Brazil. And then entering today, there have been 30 World Cup penalty shootouts. 28 of those haven't been in the final. So of those 28, the team that wins the shootout has advanced or won in their following match only 9 times compared to the 19 times they've gone on to be eliminated. So a few things not in the favour of Croatia, But as I said, I will not bet against them again. Let's bring in Mark Ogden, shall we? Because he was also watching this game. What stood out to you, Mark?
Well, I just felt it was one of those classic World Cup games where I think Ali was making the point after 10 minutes. You knew that it was going to be a long battle. It was going to go to penalties. It just felt like both teams were either too cautious, too wary of each other. Tiredness crept in, and I just think that it was almost like Japan's game plan against Spain and Germany. The Croatians had worked it out. It was basically sit deep, and try to hit on the break. I think Croatia were wise to it, and both teams basically just nullified each other. I mean, there were a few chances later on, but it was a game that. It was a game that stood out to me as two teams that will probably not go any further. I think they reached the limit in this game. I think, and whoever faces Brazil, well, it's going to be Brazil. Croatia face Brazil. I think that'll be the end of the road.
I love it. Mark Ogden's just like, it's going to be Brazil. No fear there, right, Louise?
Listen, whenever Mark Ogden wears a hoodie, like I believe everything, like every single time.
I love that you're mixing it up though, Mark. Like you've got the hoodie, but then you're also going for the studious look with the glasses too.
Thank you very much for watching ESPN FC on YouTube. For more highlights, analysis and exclusive content, be sure to subscribe.